I don't think we're losing. There's no doubt there was a tactical setback, referring to the battle at Ramadi, although Ramadi had been vulnerable for a very long time, primarily because these are not Iraqi security forces that we have trained or reinforced. The training of Iraqi security forces, the fortifications, the command and control systems are not happening fast enough in Anbar, in the Sunni parts of the country. But obviously the president there sticking with that training plan. And that's the same message that was repeated at the White House briefing this afternoon. The spokesperson saying that they do not want to have a full-scale invasion, the style of Iraq and Afghanistan previously. Here's what the spokesperson had to say about that.
The president, however, does not support that strategy. The president has never supported that strategy. The president was opposed to that strategy when it was employed by the previous administration, and he is opposed to that strategy when it's articulated by, I think, what's almost always Republican members of Congress.
There were lots of questions about this at the White House briefing. Pressure is building, but the president seems to be sticking by this training plan and the idea of supporting them from the air. It's a complicated situation, and many of the failures that we're seeing are indeed failures of the Iraqi army at this moment.
Lindsay, thank you. The CBC's Lindsay Duncombe in Washington. How confident are you about data security on your mobile device? As a CBC investigation discovered, Canada's spy agency and its surveillance partners are finding ways to access that information. CBC's Dave Seglins joins us now with all of the details. So what have you found out about this, Dave?
Well, this is all stemming from the Snowden documents, the leaks from the NSA in the United States that have disclosed to the world all manner of surveillance programs by the Five Eyes Alliance, Australia, New Zealand, the UK, and Canada, its electronic spying agency, CSE. This particular set of documents that comes from the Snowden archive reveals that there was a group within the Five Eyes Alliance that decided to look at how can we tap into mobile devices and the software we all use on our phones to better collect foreign intelligence or even put implants and spyware on select targeted phones if they're in the middle of a terrorism investigation, for instance. So there are two things that come out of these documents. They found a way, first off, there was a piece of software, a mobile browser, very popular, particularly in China and India. It's called UC Browser. They found that this software leaked all sorts of information, user IDs, phone IDs, SIM card information, even a location. So the spy agencies were able to observe this, look at millions of users' information going back and forth, so they chose to exploit that. The second part that we find is that this core working group held a number of conferences, including one in Ottawa in 2012, where they got together and they decided, let's look at the app servers. These are computers around the world where people using Samsung or Google phones would go to download mobile apps. And they found that there were vulnerabilities with some of these where they could lurk, and according to the documents, this was an opportunity for them to be able to put spyware into phones of people if they wanted to monitor them.
Wow, all right, so who's the most at risk here, do you think?
Well, if you talk to military and defense analysts, they would argue that these are tools that are being used exclusively for targeting foreign intelligence targets and people of interest to, say, the RCMP or CSIS in a national security investigation. However, there are people saying, look, there are all sorts of vulnerabilities that are being examined here that are open to not just spy agencies, but also criminals or hackers. Michael Geist is a university professor of law at the University of Ottawa, specialist in internet law, and he says, look, on the one hand, the government tells us be worried about our own cybersecurity. On the other hand, our very own spy agency is actually exploiting vulnerabilities. Here is Michael Geist.
It seems to me that it's difficult on the one hand to say we're concerned about your security, we're concerned about what takes place for individual Canadians, and at the same time look at vulnerabilities that affect millions and millions of people, not as a mechanism to try to stop that vulnerability, but rather as an opportunity to try to exploit it.
Now, Canada's spy agency, CSE, they won't discuss the specifics of this program. They won't answer questions on how often they use it, who gets targeted. What they do say, though, that this is all part of their legal mandate as they are tasked by the government to be looking out for foreign intelligence, but also to aid in national security investigations here at home.
All right, Dave, thanks very much. That's the CBC's Dave Seglins. Now, you can read this story and all of our investigative journalism on our website. Just go to cbc.ca/investigates or connect to the latest stories on Twitter at #CBC Investigates. The consortium representing Canada's biggest broadcasters, including the CBC